Man, you guys, you sound like you live in rainy climate. Aloha. There we go.
Welcome to Oregon.
It's that liquid sunshine. My name is Bill. I'm really glad you're here today. And I got to spend the last week with my bride on our 25th anniversary in Hawaii. Yeah. Amen. And I'm still there, probably. Please forgive me for that. But it was tough to get on a plane in the sunshine and get off the plane and in the rain. But anyway, it was great. You know, we've been married 25 years, and somebody asked me what was the best part of this trip. And I'm not going to tell you the best part. I was with my wife for a week on a Hawaiian island. But my second best part was probably just, hiding on the beach and getting sunburned and having a week to reflect. You guys, it's been almost 2 years. We're coming up on the 2-year birthday party for Resonate. Would you give me, let's do that. Let's give God a hand. 2 years ago, me and a few others had a passion and a fire because we looked around our county, and Shedco says, they're the group that does the research, not a church group. Shedco said that there's close to 65,000 people in this county, and most of them, 70%, are under the age of 35. Young people flooded throughout this county. And as I looked around at that point in my life, the church that I was hanging out with and the people I was with, I did not see those people. I didn't see them. And a lot of my friends who were also leading in church and trying to represent God in our community were just not seeing young people. And the more I got to hang out with people and the more I got to know people and see how many folks struggle in this county with heroin is a huge issue out here, and meth and alcohol and broken homes and blended families, single parents. There are thousands. And in the midst of all of that, we just felt such a burden that God is saying, man, these people matter. These people don't know what they're worth. These people don't know that they're throwing their life away, and God treasures them. And there can be something better. And I know that's a great thing to say on Valentine's Day. Love. The day of love and happiness. But it is the story of God's love for you. I don't know if you noticed today, all over town, somebody went around and stuck red hearts on buildings that say, "You matter." I saw one next door. I saw one at Safeway. You matter. Do you know that's absolutely true? You, right now, sitting here, right here, you matter. You matter to God. That's love. Maybe you were hoping for flowers today and you didn't get them. Maybe you're hoping for chocolate today and you didn't get them. I don't want anybody here to feel sad about Valentine's Day because you didn't get something. So, I have some volunteers. Are you guys ready? All right, let's do it. I want to give everyone in the room a kiss.
Let's get started.
No, you stay down there. Now, wait a minute. Whoa. The other kind of kiss. So we got Hershey kisses. If you don't want one, you don't have to take it. But I want everybody in the room to get a Hershey kiss. Can we do that real quick? No, only one. But did you get? Yeah, I saw that. Valentine's Day, the day of love. I want to tell you a story and read a story from the Bible that's really popular when it comes to love. My wife and I we started dating a while back, and at that point you couldn't text and you couldn't email. You had to get a thing called a pen and write on a thing called paper and put it in an envelope and put stamp. It cost 30 cents to send a text. It was expensive. And my wife and I would write back and forth, and we started using the lingo of Jacob and Rachel. Because in the Bible, there's a story about a Jacob and a Rachel who are in love. In fact, it says Jacob is so in love with this girl that he works for 7 years for free just so he can marry her. This guy is smitten. Well, let's read some of that story. Anybody get sleepy with chocolate? I guess we'll find out. Let's read that story. It's in Genesis chapter 29, and I apologize, tech team. I forgot to give you my notes this week. I'm just in Genesis chapter 29, and I'm doing, I believe it's New Living Translation. But if you'd like to follow along, you've got a Bible and you can see it. Genesis chapter 29. What's happened here is Jacob is a guy in the Bible who is actually part of the trihead of the patriarchs, I'll call it, in the Jewish religion. You've got Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob is the third one in that list. Jacob is very revered as a very important guy. Did you know his name literally means shyster? His name means trickster. It means I'm going to fool you. It means look out for me. I'm a salesman that you don't want to deal with. That's what his name literally means. And then you find out just before this story happened in chapter 28, Jacob wants, he's the second oldest son, but he wants the blessing that the oldest son is supposed to get. In their culture, the oldest child, boy, the oldest son gets everything dad has. He gets all the inheritance, he gets all the wealth, he gets everything. Well, his dad, Isaac, is going to give everything to Esau, his bigger brother. Well, Jacob doesn't like that. His mom also doesn't like that because she favors Jacob. So they figure out a way to trick Isaac into giving the blessing, which is kind of a prayer. He puts his hands on him, prays for him, blesses him, and bestows everything on his son. So they find out that Isaac's getting ready to give all this stuff to Esau, have him come in, bring a little meal, they do a little ceremony, he's going to bless Esau, give him the blessing, give him the wealth. So they sneak Jacob in. He sneaks in, he puts on fake hair, he pretends to be his brother because his dad is so old his dad can't see very well. He comes in, are you Esau? He lies, yeah, I'm Esau. Dad puts his hand, feels the hair, okay, you must be Esau, and he gives him the blessing. And a really important thing happens. Jacob gets the blessing, he leaves, his brother Esau comes in and says, I'm here now for my blessing. And his father says, who are you? I just gave it to my son Esau. He says, no, I'm the real Esau. Take it back. You got to give it to me. And Isaac doesn't. He blessed the second child. He gave him all this stuff. And when he finds out that Jacob tricked him, he doesn't fix it. He said, I made the blessing. It's done. He doesn't take it back. That's an important thing, and it comes up in the New Testament later. It talks about this fact, and it says he did the right thing. Have you ever felt like you got tricked? You got taken? Like somebody said something or somebody promised something, and they didn't do it? Or they did the opposite. They tricked you? Have you ever felt God did that to you? God, you made a promise. You told me you were going to do this thing, and you said that if I did that, you would do this. And you said, and it felt like you were supposed to get a blessing and it went to somebody else. It felt like I did what God said and nothing happened. It didn't go the way He promised. Where this story picks up in chapter 29, Jacob's on the run. So understandably, his brother Esau is much bigger than him, more hairy, stronger, hunter. I mean, the guy's, and he's mad because Jacob just robbed him of his birthright. So Jacob takes off, and he heads for family. He's headed to find his uncle that he's never met. So let me start reading there. Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and he saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep lying beside it, for out of that well the flocks were watered. The stone in the well's mouth was large. It was a big stone blocking this water hole. And when the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth and water the sheep and put the stone back over the mouth of the well. So Jacob sees these sheep waiting to get some water. he says to the guys there, my brothers, where'd you come from? They said, we're from Haran. Oh, that's where he's going. That's where his uncle lives. He says to them, do you know Laban? That's his uncle, the son of Nahor. They said, we know him. He said to them, is it well with him? They said, it is well. And see, Rachel, look, here comes his daughter, Rachel, now. And yes, we're talking about cousins. Let's just get it out there. Jacob and Rachel, they're cousins. This is not a redneck story, but man, I think the chocolate is making you sleepy. There comes Rachel, they said. Now notice what happens. They said, we know him as well. Here comes Rachel coming with his sheep. And then suddenly, Jacob has an idea. He says, behold, it's still high day. It is not time for those livestock to be gathered here together. Water the sheep and go to pasture. But they said, now, so he's trying to get rid of them. Take your sheep, get some water, get out of here. Because he sees Rachel coming. And they said, well, but wait a minute. We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together and the stone is rolled from the mouth of the water, and then we can water the sheep. So the stone's in the way, can't water the sheep to get back out to the field so that Jacob can talk to this pretty girl that's coming. So he says, guys, feed the sheep and get out of here. They said, we can't. There's a big rock in the way. So check it out. She walks up. Now, as soon as Jacob saw, verse 10, as soon as he saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of her sheep too. So the pretty girl walks up, and what does he do? These guys are waiting for a group so they can move this rock. And what does Jacob do? Let me show her my guns. And he rolls this thing out of the way, waters her sheep, and then trying to get rid of those guys. It goes way beyond that. Then verse 11, then Jacob kissed her, which seems a little abrupt. They just met. And he starts crying. Wept aloud, it says. Okay, now I believe in, guys, it's important to be emotional a little bit. You want to, it's Valentine's Day, okay, be a little emotional, but be careful how fast you go into it. He just met this girl. Talk about smitten. Talk about wiped at love at first sight, right? My grandparents got married at 16 years old, I think it was. And they stayed married for 80 years, it felt like, 70 years, I think. That is very rare. I meet a lot of people who meet somebody and they are in love. Man, they're in love. I have found my soulmate. You should see her Facebook page. We are like this. Oh, we need to get married. Oh, I got to get her. This is from God. It's so great. And their emotions are way up here. They don't know these people from Adam. How do they put the toilet paper on the roll? Does it come over the top or does it go under the bottom? See? How do they do the toothpaste? Do they just grab the thing and squeeze it and then put it on there? Or do they roll it from the bottom because you're wasting and there's a bunch of stuff? Or there's always the violent approach. These things sound really simple. They sound like no big deal, but do you know that the little things turn into the big things? And it's really important. So let me say this. If you're at that place where you're on that verge or you've fallen madly in love and Match.com is just wonderful and you're way up here, can I challenge you that real love can wait? Real love can wait. Infatuation has to happen right now. Infatuation says, I'm in love, I feel good, we got to get married while I still feel good. Because I may not feel good next week. Real love can wait. There's a reason why that waiting is a powerful negotiation tool. Well, you need to buy it now. You need to do it now. You need to sign up today. There's a reason they do that. To make you act in emotion. And you walk away and you regret. And you walk away and you go, I can't really afford that. Why did I say yes? There's power and real love. It can wait. All right, so guys, be willing to say your feelings. Tell her, talk to her. If it's Valentine's Day and there's somebody in your life, men especially, we need to hear this. They don't read our thoughts. They don't get the fact that we think they should just get it. You got to say something. Talk, okay? I'm going to say it and leave it out there. Then Jacob said to Laban, let me back up. Verse 15. Or 13. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him. So uncle finds out he's in town, goes to embrace him, and Jacob tells him all about what's been happening and why Esau's after him, I'm sure. And he says, surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. Okay, he's been there for a month. So he met Rachel. He got taken back to his uncle's house. He's been there for a month. And then look what happens. Then Laban says to Jacob, because you're my kinsman, should you therefore work here, serve me for nothing? Tell me what your wages shall be. So what do I pay you? He's there. He's going to help with Laban has a lot of goats and donkeys, or sheep and goats, and so he's going to help be a sheep a herder. He says, I need to pay you something. What should I pay you? Verse 16. Now Laban had two daughters. The name of the older daughter was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. This is the girl he'd seen. Leah, it says, verse 17, Leah's eyes were weak. What that means is she was not pleasant to look at. It goes on later and says Rachel, well, right there. Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance, and Leah was not. So Leah was the older sister who was not as pretty. Her name, Leah, literally means dancing or jumping cow. Yeah. Thanks, Mom, for that name. Anyway, I got distracted by a thought at the front here. I'm still, in Hawaii, it's still 8 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not all here. So Jacob says, the name of the other was Leah, the name of Rachel, and it says Rachel was very beautiful in form and appearance. And it says 18. This is the verse everybody will pull out of the Bible and say, oh, this is real love. Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel. I will work for free. My pay for 7 years is that I will get to marry Rachel. This guy is smitten. He's known her for a month. And he's ready to work, commit 7 years of free work for the privilege to marry her. Now that is really a very cool thing. And if you are married, guys, I want to challenge you to own that. Be that. Well, sometimes it does feel like work. Maybe. I've been married 25. I got to tell you, I know my wife has worked a lot harder than I have. And there are times you just think, I just don't want to do this. This is too hard. She's not getting it. I don't get it. This is just too difficult. Real love can wait. Infatuation says, you hurt my feelings, I'm done, I'm out of here. You make me happy or I'm out of here. You give me what I want or I'm out of here. Love can wait. Love doesn't always get what it wants, and it can still wait. Today is also the date of the first date that Bert and Donna had 50 years ago. Wow. And they're going to celebrate their 50th anniversary this year. So, did you get married like real quick? So, a couple months. All right. Well, that's better than a couple of days. I'm proud of you guys. That is not the norm. That is not the norm. Because true love, real love, can wait. You guys, I wish I could push this in hard. There are so many young people and so many people who jump into an emotional situation and you think the solution here is to get married. The solution here, we feel in love. This is the right thing. And I say so many times, if you don't ask me to do marriage counseling because I'm going to try to talk you out of it. Because if I can, you shouldn't get married. It's not all roses. It's not an easy, flowery road. There are wonderful times. And there are very difficult times. And you have to be tough going in. You have to be clear-minded going in. Jacob does some things here that I really want us to see, because I think God leads us when we trust Him. God says, hey, trust me and do this thing, and we step out. It doesn't always go the way you want it to. It doesn't happen the way you think. But God uses everything that happens to His good for those who love Him. He will use everything and work it out in ways that we don't imagine. And that comes up here next in this story. Jacob then says in verse 21, he works the 7 years. He served the 7 years, verse 20. Served 7 years for Rachel, and look at this. They seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Now there's the test. 7 years and he still feels that way. Wow. This guy was smitten with this girl. Verse 21, Jacob says to her, okay, I did my time. Let me get married here. So Laban gets together the people. They have a big feast. It actually takes a week to have the party. But in the evening, he took his daughter Leah. Wait a minute. Leah, she's the older daughter. And he brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. And he marries Leah. Now, maybe the week of wine, maybe he was a little inebriated and didn't see very clearly. Maybe she had a lot of veils on. But he marries the older sister, not the one he'd worked for. Now look what happened. He spends the whole night with her and doesn't know it. I keep losing my place. He took Leah and brought her to Jacob. He went into her, and Laban gave his female servant Zilpah. This is kind of another important point. The father-in-law gives his daughter a servant. One of the servants in his house goes to serve her, along with being married. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And Jacob said to Laban, what is this you've done to me? Did I not serve you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me? He wakes up in the morning, surprise, dancing cow. Or I'm not real sure if it's dancing or it's something leaping or anyway. Surprise! And I'm going, how did it really the whole night and you didn't catch this on? I got my suspicions there. Anyway, he jumps out of bed, runs in to talk to Laban and says, what are you doing to me? Where's Rachel? I worked 7 years for Rachel. Well, Laban's got his story. And you know what's so funny about this is Laban, the father-in-law, he pulls a Jacob on Jacob. Remember what Jacob did to Isaac? Esau? He pretended to be Esau, tricked, switched. The whole thing happens now to him. Kind of interesting, maybe God was part of that. He says, why have you deceived me? So Laban makes up this thing about, well, I got to marry the oldest off first. And, I forgot to tell you that. Whatever. And Laban says, it is not done so in our country. You have to marry the oldest off first. So complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other one also in return for serving me for another 7 years. So now, working 7 years for Rachel has turned into 14. Jacob did it. Verse 28. Completed the week with Leah. And then a week later, he gets to marry Rachel. And Rachel brings her servant. That's another important point. Bilhah comes with her. And so Jacob went into Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah and served Laban for another 7 years. Have you ever felt like you got tricked? and it wasn't fair. And you thought you were doing the right thing, and it seemed like, wow, boy, did I get sucker punched on this deal. Listen to what happens. You can go back and read it, but the next chapter. Jacob could have done what his dad Isaac did. When Isaac got tricked, he didn't fix it. He didn't take back what he'd done. He got tricked. He gave the blessing to the wrong one. He let it stay there. He didn't fight it. He let it be what it was. And in the New Testament, he got blessed. He got mentioned about that he'd done the right thing, that God honored that. Jacob has a choice. He got tricked. He got the wrong girl. And rather than do what his dad did and let it stay, he tried to fix it. He worked another 7 years to fix it. And he marries the other girl too. Listen to what happens. Leah, the oldest, the first one he marries, she gets pregnant. In that culture, a woman's value is highly based on whether she could have children or not. And it was a big deal to them. And so these women, and Leah got pregnant a couple of times. And Rachel, the one that Jacob favored, was so upset about the fact that she had no children that she came to her husband, and you're going to see her grabbing his shirt saying, "Give me a child or I will die. I've got to have what I want or I'm going to die." She gets so desperate about it that she decides, in their culture, this is okay. She sends her servant girl into sleep with her husband so that she can get pregnant and that child belongs to Rachel. So here's what happens. So Leah has the two. Rachel sends in her servant. You go sleep with him. And so a servant gets pregnant. Well, Leah sees that, so she sends her servant in. You sleep with him and you get pregnant. So that happens. And then finally, after a couple of kids, and who knows, it's becoming a mess. A couple of kids in, suddenly Rachel does really get pregnant. And she gets her son and names him Joseph. You know Joseph and the colorful coat. Potiphar's wife, that whole thing, that Joseph. His name literally means added on or more. In other words, give me another one. And there are 12 sons born to Jacob by these 4 women. Because Jacob couldn't just accept Leah. Let me tell you something that's really important in this story. Leah is really, really important. You know, the names of the lineage of Jesus in Matthew, where it says where Jesus came from: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. You know, that list of names has Ruth. It has a prostitute. It has King David in it. That list of names is really important. They are all the bloodline of Jesus. That bloodline includes Leah. It doesn't include Rachel. Jesus came through Jacob and Leah and their son Judah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He could have stopped with Leah. God was going to use her bloodline. Maybe God set that up. Again, that's me. That's me. And rather than try to fix it and force what he wanted, he could have stopped when God provided something. Let me tell you why that matters. That 2 years ago, that birthday party we're going to have next month, we don't know. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what God's going to do. We're driven because lost people matter to God. We've seen almost 40 people become Christians in the last 2 years. We've seen of those, and there are thousands, we've seen lives getting changed. We've had people be a part of this and coming and going, a little bit like passing a baton. And And that everybody plays a role, and it's been so important to keep focused on that. We started out trying to rent the high school, and went down and talked to them and tried to use the building, and that didn't really work out. And so then ended up in McBride Elementary. We rented that building for a couple of months. We tried to do kids there and do the Sunday service and set up everything and do that. And God was bringing people, and God was teaching us how to do and to be what he wants us to be. And then we thought, well, it's a lot of work setting up. We didn't have all the right equipment. And somebody, I think it was Patrick, said, you know what we should do is talk to the theater. The theater, they got nice seats and cup holders, and maybe they'd be willing to rent their space on Sunday morning. We don't see a lot of movies Sunday morning. And I called up and talked to Lance and Leah. And I remember that first conversation because I talked to her, and she says they'd be open to it, but she wanted to know what we teach. She didn't want to know how much we'd pay. She didn't want to know, any of the business stuff. She wanted to know, what do you believe about Jesus? And I thought, man, I was impressed. She wanted to know, where'd you go to school? And and what that told me is this is somebody who cares about the same things I care about. And God led us here, and the situation improved dramatically. And then he gave us the building next door to try to put the kids into. And as that developed, and again, the whole time, I'm thinking we are just chasing people. I don't know what God's doing. And I think he's doing this, but we go that way and it changes. But I'm not going to change. The vision is not going to change. We are chasing people who matter to God, like my friend Josh sitting here, right here, that we got to pray together last week for you to invite Jesus into your heart, or 2 weeks ago. And I'm so proud of you, my friend. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. Now, how it happens and where it happens, I don't know. God leads that. And we've been renting this building with the athletic club. And it's a challenge. The kids get in there, and you get all these classes going, and the high ceilings, and it's a little noisy, and the volunteers work really hard, but it's really hard on them to teach classes in that space. And about 2 months ago, we were talking about it. The owners have been pretty gracious, but it's getting hard for them as well. And we were looking at it, and I have been down here many times and walked this street, and I've stood in the middle of the street and talked to God about it and said, what do you want us to do? I don't know what to do. I said, we need a place for kids because so many single parents and so many people need to be here, but they can't do it without kids ministry. They won't be here. Without kids ministry, this thing closes. God, what do I do? And I looked around, and I thought, man, we tried to rent the Masonic Lodge across the street. I went and talked to the owner, went and walked around in there. I don't want to take kids across the street. That seems hard, but we looked at it. And it's got all that, painting and design and Masonic stuff. Kind of creeped me out, actually. And we looked at it, and the cost was pretty high. And I don't know. And I tried to rent a little space across the street. Again, one little room, and it just, God, what do you want us to do? And then this building in Columbia City came up, and the owner came and said, hey, you know what? You can use it for free for a little while. Okay, well, we'll try. It's a long ways away, but okay, sure. And our youth group used it. It was a big help for youth group, big help for recovery. A lot of meetings happened out there, but it's a couple miles away. And then, like I said, 2 months ago, I'm standing outside. I just had a phone call that just told me we really need to change the situation here with the kids. And I looked on the other side, and this building over here, and it had a going out of business sign. And I thought, that place looks so entrenched. Those folks have been there a long time. I don't know that that's anything, but I looked up the owner, and I called him and said, hey, I don't know if you've got plans. I'm with that church that uses the theater, and we really need a better space for our kids, and I think your space would work. I have no idea if we can afford it, but can we talk about it? Come to find out, the two lawyers who own it live upstairs. They are both fans of Resonate. They are both fans of what we're trying to do, to chase people who matter. And we talked about it, and they worked out a great deal to let us, in fact, they're going to let us use it
We got the keys last week, and we're getting the month of February for free. At the same time, we found out youth ministry. I was talking to the folks that are leading that, and they're saying a lot of our kids, that's a long hike, getting a ride out to Columbia City. A lot of them could just walk if we were down here. Recovery ministry. Man, I think recovery ministry is going to be really blessed to be right here. There are so many things we can be doing. And so we've decided it would just be smarter to not pay for both the building in Columbia City and for this, but it'd be better use of that money to just do the downtown. So we're going to be moving everything that we've kind of collected out in Columbia City down here after this gets kind of fixed up and cleaned up. If you want to look on your way out today, stick your head in the window and check it out. It's kind of a mess, but we're going to be working on it for the next 2 weeks or so and trying to get in there by March. If you'd like to help, we're going to probably have a work day very shortly. I'd love to have you help with painting or whatever else you want to do. But the midst of that, I want to say, as we stay focused on what God told us to do, we think this is going to happen. We think that's going to happen. And he does stuff. You guys, I could have never dreamed that we could use the building right next door. And it's bigger. In floor space, it's bigger than what we would have had across the street and better than going across the street with the kids. And I stood there and looked at that, and the price they're giving us, the opportunity they're giving us, it's just amazing to me that God has provided that. I think that's the step of something really exciting. I think Easter this year is going to be something really special. And we are going to try to have our birthday party next door in this new space next month if we get it all finished. So if you'd like to help with that, I want you to talk to Bert on your way out today. Let him know you're one that would like to help. I can't give you a time yet. The way it works, our staff is meeting tomorrow. We're putting all of our plans on paper because we got all these ministries that want to use the same space, and we got to figure out the best way to make that work. And then once that plan's put together, then we're going to say, hey, bring your dirty clothes or your brush or something and come help us clean it up. And let's see what God will do and whose lives he is going to change when we have this opportunity to be available to people all week right downtown. We need to just give God a hand. That is just cool what he's done. And rather than fight him and say, God, this is what I wanted us to be over there. Or God, I wanted this thing to happen. I want that. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to say, God, what are you doing? How do I get behind you? Instead of telling him how he can get behind me. Let's pray. God, there are people in this room right now who are struggling very, very hard. And it seems like everything that they try to do falls apart. And your word shows us that true love waits. True love will listen and wait for you. So God, I pray that this day, this week, that we would all walk away with resolve that we will wait on you, because your word says, those who wait on the Lord will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Teach us, God, to wait on you. Hey, would y'all stand up with us?